My Harbor Freight blast cabinet. I did a few upgrades, mostly starting with caulking all the seams. You can kind of see it. I did it on the inside and the outside, so it'd be really airtight. I got dust collection set up. This, I think, is supposed to be the port, maybe for the dust collector, but I just made it like a vacuum port, if just in case the dust collector gets clogged and then you keep putting air inside, it's not just gonna, force all of the dust and air through the seams. The pressure will be relieved over there. And there's that baffled air, which makes it better for dust collection. So I've just got this, see if you can see this here. It's this little dust collection flange that you can get at Woodcraft. It's 2.5 inch diameter, so you can use their cheap $20 10-foot hose. I say cheap, it's $20, but I mean dust collection hoses are really expensive for some reason. It's just this wooden plate is just sheet metal screwed into the cabinet itself, and there's some weather stripping behind it to keep it airtight, and then it's just wood. The flange is just wood screwed into the plywood, and that goes all the way to my dust collector, which is just one of those Home Depot shop vacs, which I built a stand for, and I got one of those cyclone dust collectors so that the filter doesn't get all clogged up. I originally built this to pull around the shop, but it was kind of impractical, so it's just the stationary dust collection for the blast cabinet now. And it pulls a really good vacuum. I'll show you an example. If I pull the gloves back and I turn on the dust collection, it actually pulls the gloves inside. It's such a good vacuum. And this is the air compressor I'm using. That people always say you got to use like a 80-gallon, 100-gallon, 200-gallon compressor, to sandblast anything. But I haven't found that to be the case. This is just 27 gallons. It's not even 30 gallons. It's the oiled style, just not so noisy. It's got a real cast iron pump and a motor, so it fills up pretty quick, which is the good part, because you want to be blasting about 90 psi. This will hold 130. It cuts off at 130, and you can blast for. I'm blasting an exhaust manifold right now. It used to look like this one. You can't really see how rusty it is, but like if I rub on it, like my finger will get all brown. Look how dirty it is on the inside. But I just started on this, so there's not that much difference. But you can kind of see on the right side, it's cleaner than on the left. But the main thing I use it for is carburetor parts. And for instance, this was just brown, like you could hardly even tell it was metal. It was this whole side was all scaly and rusted, and it looks, it's not perfect, but I used baking soda as media, which is dirt cheap, so I wasn't expecting much to begin with. And this carb as well, the whole thing was just it was crusty, it was awful. And now there's still some residue left over in the bowls. But it's so, you can't really see it because the floats are in there, but it's so, that residue is caked on so hard, and it's a really thin layer that even if you scratch it with a screwdriver, it doesn't come off. So if that comes off with the fuel in the carb, it's not going to damage the engine or anything. It's just you want to get all the loose stuff out of there. And for that, it works great. If I used a more aggressive media other than baking soda, I'm sure I'd be getting better results. I'm actually Also, this is kind of frustrating because the dust keeps collecting in the corners rather than at the bottom of the tray. And the reason for that is I have this vibration control. I've got a little vibrating motor at the bottom of the tray to keep the dust accumulated at the bottom. But when I made this speed control box, I was drilling the hole for this right here, and you can see I went all the way through and I fucked up this capacitor. So it worked for like, it worked once, and now it's not working at all. I think I'm pretty sure it's because of that capacitor. But once I got a switch for it here. Once I'll just replace that capacitor, and hopefully that'll fix the media problem. But yeah, this works pretty well. These are the basic mods you should do for your blast cabinet. I mean, dust collection. I mean, obviously I wouldn't want to get rust particles and baking soda in the air out here. And one last thing I did as well is on the benchtop version of this cabinet, I'm sure a lot of people know that the drain on the benchtop version is on the side of the cabinet, which is stupid. It makes no sense because it won't drain properly. So I just capped off that drain and drilled another one at the bottom. There's this little box here at the very bottom of the tray, this red bit. The drain valve is normally on the side. So I closed that just with two big washers on either side and put a bolt through them, and then tightened up a nut onto the other end of the bolt. So it kind of sandwiched the hole. And I drilled my own hole right here and used their hardware for that. And now you can see it's very easily accessible as well, which is if I unscrew this, all the baking soda will come out. So it's pretty practical to use. I cleaned that as well, and that looks fantastic, although it wasn't that bad to begin with. Yeah, you can do it with it'll keep kicking on after about 5 minutes of blasting, but the 27-gallon air compressor works just fine. So you can get this whole setup going. I'd say maybe the air compressor cost me $100 because I put it together with separate parts. The motor and pump was from an air compressor with a bad tank, and I got the tank for $50 on Craigslist. And then the cabinet itself is like, I want to say it's $100, $120 with the 20. Maybe it's 150, and then it's 120 with the 20% off coupon they always have. Harbor Freight. If you don't already have one of these, those can be kind of expensive if you buy them new. Maybe $30 on Craigslist. The plywood thing, you can make that yourself. You don't need to make it, really. You could just hang it off the side of the base. And the dust cyclone, again, it's expensive if you buy it new from like Woodcraft. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. It's maybe, I think this is $60 for this molded plastic thing. But I've seen people make their own just with a bucket and 2 pipe elbows, and it gets a similar cyclonic motion going. So overall, I guess 100, and let's say all of this 100, you can get it going for $300. And if you get anything powder coated and sandblasted and powder coated, like wheels for instance, for all 4 wheels, it's going to be more than $300. And with the small capacity, the small volume compressor, it'll take you a while to do it, but it'll cost you the same. And then at the end of it, you've got this whole blast cabinet setup, and you can, never have trouble rebuilding carbs again, or at least you won't have to squat over them, scrubbing them with a toothbrush, breathing in, chemicals that are going to give you cancer in your 40s. So yeah, works pretty good.